So as I've come to learn with the C8 platform, there's a couple websites out there, a couple brands that are really making some high quality parts for these things. Two of them that kind of stand out are Paragon Parts and Extreme Online Store, kind of a weird name, but still has kind of comparable setups for the C8 Corvette. They both offer a light for this front piece right here. Both of them are roughly in the same price range, but aside from that, I really had a hard time deciding which one I wanted. So, I got both. I'm making this video so I can install both and show you guys what the difference between the Paragon light and the EOS light really are, so you guys can make an informed decision on your own. Full disclosure, I did reach out to these companies before I did this video to tell them I was doing that. EOS was pretty confident in this comparison, so they sent me a set of theirs. Paragon evidently was a little bit less interested, so I spent my own money to buy theirs. I plan to install both of them. I'm going to show you exactly how easy they are, what the differences are, and how they look when they're installed, and give you guys the most informed decision as I can. And here they are. Now, in full disclosure, the Paragon shipped a little bit faster than the EOS, but the packaging is wildly different. If you can see inside this Paragon box, everything's separated, but the insides are kind of loose, and to be honest, there's a little bit of shifting that happens. So I'm hoping you guys could hear that on camera. The fact that this stuff is not securely mounted here gives me a little bit of concern. Inside the box, you can see where the paint's actually rubbing off here, where it's been contacting and shifting against the cardboard because there's nothing to secure it. And same for the other side down here. So I'm a little bit worried about how these are gonna look when I take them out. Now, when I open up the EOS lights, the Extreme Online Store lights, these are the painted ones. EOS gives you some options of regular carbon fiber or painted. This is just the painted for an apples to apples comparison. Also, they're the cheapest. Look at this packaging by comparison. Nice foam on the top. Everything is super secure in here. It all has its own spot. It's not overdone, it's not overpacked, but it's just simply put into this foam that's kept everything incredibly stable. So because of that, this is definitely better off. They have plastic wrap over all the paint, so nothing's gonna get scuffed up, and you're gonna get exactly the product you wanted, and it's gonna arrive in good shape. So, not to say Paragons are bad or say anything else about them, but just from the packaging, I think EOS scores a win on this one. Before we get into the install, I'll also mention pricing because I think that is pretty relevant here. Now, the Paragon one, per their website, is around $500 for the normal pricing. They do have it marked down, and I don't know if it's one of those permanent markdowns to make you think that it's normally a higher price and take advantage of the deal, or if it truly is on special right now. But at the time I'm shopping for it, it was about 350 bucks. There was no tax or shipping added to it. It just was a flat fee, and that's what I paid. The EOS lights, again, are a little bit different because you have two options. You can get them in actual carbon fiber, which run about 500 bucks, or you can get them in just the painted carbon flash, or even unpainted if you want to paint them yourself. And those are a little bit cheaper. So those ended up being just about $50 cheaper than the Paragon lights. All right, so let's go ahead and pull these out from Paragon. These are the Paragon lights. And aside from a little bit of damage on the corner from the cardboard rubbing on them, these are the lights. They do have the little bit of wrap that's on the lights themselves. On the back, the plastic is distinctly different from the Extreme Online Store ones, which actually makes me feel better. When I ordered these, I was a little bit concerned that they'd be basically Chinese knockoffs. Basically, they both order from the same supplier and get them shipped, just rebrand them and send them out. That's kind of what I thought they'd be, but after looking at them, I'll show you the differences on them. They are distinctly different. All right, we'll get to installing these in just a moment. I just want to show you there's actually two wires coming out of this, unlike the EOS. You have your plug right here, your headlight plug, and then you have what looks like a resistor right here in a totally separate plug. The EOS only had one wire coming out, so that's a little bit different, and I'm sure this is going to involve some high quality zip ties. We'll see how that installation looks. Let's go ahead and take this peel off. It is barely stuck on at all, so it was definitely an afterthought. Let's take a look. The lens itself looks like it might be just very lightly smoked. Kind of hard to tell. It is on a black background. It is definitely carbon flash painted, and the paint looks pretty good overall, other than where the cardboard was rubbing against it. And if we flip it over, we can see these pegs here. These are metal brackets that are in here, and it's kind of hollow around them. It's kind of cut out, so that's a little bit different than the EOS. Quality controlled sticker, that's good. There's some sort of plug here that has been epoxied over. Same with back here. Our wires come out of here. It looks like it's pretty well epoxied in there. I don't think anything weather is going to get in there, but these wires are a little bit exposed and have a little bit of a kink to them already. There's what I assume is a screw hole back there and a couple tabs that all look pretty good. Let's go ahead and see what else is in the box. So we have a single bag here that's going to have, looks like our actual headlight connectors. So the way I understand these to work is that the plug for your headlights, you unplug your headlights, there's a Y adapter, so you plug this kind of adapter into both your headlights, both ends, and to this plug, and it allows you to basically steal the signal and cooperate with your vehicle with no extra wiring. There's a couple other things in here though. There's some interesting other parts, some other plugs, and some hardware that we'll have to check out when we open up these instructions. So as I look these over, one thing I find a little unique, I'll have to check the EOS lights to see if they do it as well. The lens right here at the top is open, totally open. See that? So I wonder if that is secured on the inside. It looks like there might be a kind of a wall in there, but this lens here is gonna get stuff all inside of it on the outside, and I'm curious why they didn't just seal that off. But I guess we'll take a look. I looked at both sides of it. Both sides do the same thing, the left and right side. Everything else looks kind of sealed. You can kind of see how it looks all the way around. So we'll see how resilient these are to like water and moisture and that sort of thing. Let's take a look at the instructions. So one of the pamphlets inside directly answered my question, I believe, about the sealing of these headlights. And it talks about condensation, about pressures coming in and out, about these LEDs getting hot. So I'm guessing that's what that part is. That little opening is to help with some of this. Condensation does not equal water leak. Good to know. Second page was involving that extra cord that's on these lights, the Paragon lights. Now that extra cord that's plugged together, when it's hooked together as it comes from the factory, looks like it gives you sequential turn signal. You can unplug it and use some of these dummy plugs right here to seal it, and that gives you non-sequential, so the whole thing will bleed. So it depends what you're into. It gives you different options for the sequential turn signal. When you buy these, Paragon does send out a YouTube video for the installation instead of an installation guide directly in the box. I'll leave a link to that above. That way you guys have that installation video when you go to attempt this. I'll show you what I do here. All right, here are the EOS lights as we're getting them on. I noticed the lights themselves, they do not have this little tab on the inside. It fits flush, but it doesn't actually stick in anywhere. I don't think that's really a problem, but that is different than the other ones. And if I'm looking at the actual fitment here, I'm noticing a little gap that I don't think is too terrible, but it definitely is there. We still have the Paragon on the other side, so we can take a look at that fitment and how this is a little tighter in there, but the Paragons seem to have a nice even gap all the way around, where the EOS lights maybe don't. Even this corner seems to stick out a little bit more. Is it the end of the world? No, but it definitely is a little different on fitment. Let's go ahead and get them cinched down and see if that makes a difference. I will say the EOS bolts do have the little nylon lock rings in there, so they don't come off, whereas the Paragons did not. And the wiring harnesses are a little different. This was the Paragon wiring harness, and it's got this kind of rubberized wire loom. And the connectors don't have a little safety catch on the back, but they're all solid wires, as opposed to the Paragon that uses the plastic wire loom, which may be more durable, may not, I don't really know. This connector has that safety tab on the back, just like stock. And there's some splicing
that happened on these wires, which is a little bit maybe concerning, not quite sure. Okay, looking at them now, you can see the EOS light here. And I'm noticing from the actual optic, the diffuser inside does, I think, a better job at really throwing light upward. You know, looking at it from the top, because that is a lot brighter from this direction. Straight on, it's not quite as bright. It's clearly meant to kind of just be diffuse all around. So it's not as bright here, but it's definitely brighter from the top than the Paragon light, that from the top is pretty dim, but straight on gets pretty bright. So they're definitely different in how they work. With the DRLs on, I noticed with the white lights down here, even with the Paragons, I noticed how dim and kind of almost yellowy the factory DRLs are. And I wonder if that's kind of unique to my headlights or if that's a normal thing. So if you guys have kind of yellowish, let me know. I really didn't notice till I had these white lights right next to them. That's the EOS light. And like I said, from more viewing angles, it maintains its brightness. It is not as high intensity straight on as the Paragon light, but pretty much no matter what angle you look at this thing, it is just as bright. As opposed to, again, the Paragon light right here. I know from the LED lights, you can see it flicker on camera maybe a little bit. From up at top, from over on the side, it kind of doesn't have the same brightness, but straight on, it is definitely brighter. So the optics in it are a little bit different for sure. This coming down the road might attract a little bit more attention straight on, though kind of off angle, especially for a turn signal, doesn't really give you a whole lot over here. Whereas this light may not be as bright in the daytime, especially straight on. It still seems pretty bright. Not quite as bright straight on, but even well off angle, it's still throwing out a lot more light. Well guys, I'm ultimately going to leave this up to you. Which lights would you like to see on this Corvette? Which ones do you think I should keep on the Corvette? Pros and cons, really, since I have those sets already, the EOS lights at night I think are way better. You can see in much different angles. You can see from above, from the side, all around you can see the light, and they're a little bit easier at different angles to see. Though straight on, they're definitely dimmer. Now at night, not a big deal. It really doesn't show. There's no sunlight that's kind of taking over the diffuser here. So really, it's not a big deal. At night, they look great. But during the day, if I'm behind a car in traffic and I have my turn signal on, I can't even see these lights scanning at all. I can only see these lights reflecting back to me because they're so dim. You guys can see in the aerial video, even on not the sunniest day out there, they just are not as bright as even the factory DRLs. So in the daytime, they do struggle, and for that reason, I think I'm gonna go back to the Paragon lights. I do like the way these look when they're off. They are slimmer, they've got that angle to them, and really from a distance, if they're off, they almost look like the factory winglets that were on there. So as far as the shape, I like these a lot. And again, for the price, if you guys are buying them, looking at the website now, both of these have increased in price. So they are not as cheap as they were when I bought them, but definitely compare. They seem like they change regularly. Definitely compare the prices. As cheap as these are, they do a good job if you just want something a little stylish. But again, with that slight fitment issue and with the overall design of these where they're not that bright during the daytime, maybe not the EOS ones. Now, I know some of you guys have seen that the Radiator Grill store is another online store. They have some of these as well, but if you look at the SKU, it says EOS on it, so I think it's the same Extreme Online Store light. They don't exactly specify. I've emailed them, they haven't responded, but that's what my guess is, so I didn't order a set of those.
All right, obviously you're gonna need to remove the wheel. As long as you can slide underneath, because there's a bunch of clips under this bumper, as long as you can access them and get a tool under it, it is high enough. You're primarily gonna use a T15 bit. You're also gonna need a deep well 7mm and a 10mm. All right, so in the wheel well here, we're gonna have this back piece here is a separate piece. So underneath it, you guys can see under here is one T15 that we're gonna get out. There are 4 push clips on this that we're going to just pull straight out. There's a little bit of force required, but this will just snap out. After that, we're gonna have some T15s behind it. You're gonna have in our wheel well liner here a bunch of T15s all the way around, inside, outside, top, bottom. There are a lot of these things. We're gonna pull them out. And note how this fits in here to begin with, because when you pull it out, one of the hardest things is gonna be putting this wheel liner back in. That is quite frustrating.
One under there and two more. All right, so the splitter, we can see the holes there all the way around. They had the T15s. We only have to go to about there. We don't need to come into the actual center for any reason. On the bottom, there's another T15 right there. There's a couple 7mm right here. And then there's 3 more T15s down the edge right there. That's gonna loosen the centerpiece, and it's tucked under the bumper here. So we're gonna be able to just pull that out. All right, inside our front bumper here, we can see this little black block. Underneath it are 3 7mm bolts. They have to come out. Once that's out, realistically, you can leave this back one in as long as it's a little bit loose. The front two have to come out. This will turn sideways and it'll actually hold this bumper out for you. There's a little cord right inside here. This is basically what we're gonna follow around to run our other wiring through. If you can see that there. There's enough gap to run over this radiator in there. And that's where our wiring is gonna fit through. And then we're gonna put our Y adapter right up there, which is where our wiring is all gonna be contained.
All right, now that we got all those out, this centerpiece here should just fall in and slide out from under the bumper here. Here it is. Got a couple rocks in there, it's a little tight. We'll set that aside. And it's okay that our splitter's hanging a little bit, that's fine. So from here, this is the piece we're going to have to get to. There is enough room under here to get our hand, but once we get this bumper released, it'll be a little bit more flexible. There's gonna be 3 7mm bolts behind our factory little wing here. This is just some clips that will pull straight out. Okay, this is my absolute least favorite part. It's just super tedious. And this is where on the other side, like I said, if you are able to just take this bumper off, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you. Let's see if I can put my hand here. Be careful of tools around the radiator. You're not trying to bust that. That part is truly a pain with the bumper on. Very doable, but wow, getting behind there, especially getting this one, you really have to fish your way up through it. There's a little gap here to kind of help you, but over here is very difficult. So once we get those off, now it's kind of the easy part. There's a little tab right in the bumper there. There's a couple clips that are linked to both this grill insert and the bumper itself on this side. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this tab off first because that's easy, just one little tab right there. And now this just has to kind of be pulled out. There we go, we kind of got it moving. There we go, just comes straight out. There was a piece missing already to ours, because this has been out before, some leaves. You've got 3 tabs on this black grill right here, and then we've got our tabs on the bumper itself. So it should, in theory, with all these tabs, just pull straight out. Now we're ready to install the new one. It is basically a direct replacement. It's got all the same tabs right here, and it has the actual bolts in the housing here instead of being put in the back, so they'll just have some nuts that screw on. So we can see our 3 holes right here. We're gonna route our wiring through this hole right here underneath the bar where this is gonna go, and that'll allow us the space to kind of hide these and run them through. All right, so first we're gonna have to get this wire undone. Honestly, on the other side, I found using a little tool was quite helpful just to get around there and slide it out.
So just to show you guys, this is what it is. This little red tab has to slide back towards the wires, and that allows this button to be depressed, pushed in, and then this will disconnect. Now we have our headlight connection, and this we're going to put our Y connector in. We're going to go ahead and plug in our Y connector, make sure it snaps, and make sure this goes in. Make sure you feel it seat in. We now have this wiring that can kind of be tucked wherever. We don't want to make it too tight up here because we don't want to bend any wires or get it too hot, but that's just the room it's going to have to sit in. We're going to then connect our new lights right there. This is a waterproof connector. It takes a little bit of effort. You hear it snap. And then this little cord right here is going to be our sequential turn signals. If you take this apart, then they're just standard flashing. I like the sequential. All right, before we get too far into securing this, let's go ahead and hit our keys here to see how they look. And back to my least favorite part is installing all of the bolts back here. This is a little bit thicker. It is, in my opinion, even harder to do because it kind of blocks some of that space that we would have used before. So we're gonna have to come up through the bottom here. We're gonna start by getting our 7mm bolts back up here so our bumper is re-secured. As I learned from the other side, I do not have a good method of doing this. It does not fit in here very well before you get it secured. It makes it quite difficult. All right, roughly where it needs to be. Perfect. Whew. That's not easy. And finally going to reinstall our little mud flap here, basically is what this is. There are two little tabs that kind of guide it in. Then you have your 4 snaps, which should fully locate it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and fire this car up and see how these things look.
Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain,
That's pretty cool.
Disease, a plague, we all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy. Think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me. I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working.